All right, so today we're diving deep, deep into the Great Wave off Kanagawa. That incredible woodblock print with the giant wave and those little boats by Katsushika Hokusai.
Yeah, iconic.
It is. You've probably seen it, even if you don't know the name. But we're going to take you beyond just like recognizing it. Someone requested a deep dive, so we're going to explore its context, what it means, and how it, impacted art.
Big journey ahead. We'll go from Japan all the way to Europe and even beyond.
So let's start in the 1830s. Japan, it's the Edo period. Peace for 2 centuries. So cities are growing, a merchant class is thriving, and with all that comes this explosion of culture.
Right, money to burn, and people want art. They want entertainment.
Exactly. So this is where we get ukiyo-e, pictures of the floating world, and these woodblock prints. They were like the pop art of their time.
Totally. Capturing life in the city. And, accessible, not just for the elite. You could get art for what? The price of a bowl of noodles.
So what kind of things did these floating world pictures show?
Ooh, lots. Kabuki actors in dramatic poses, beautiful courtesans, sumo wrestlers, all that good stuff that people loved.
And then Hokusai comes along and he adds landscapes to the mix, especially Mount Fuji.
Yeah. It was a shift in what people wanted. Travel was becoming more common, and you had this fascination with meisho, famous places.
And then Fuji, it was more than just a mountain.
Definitely. A symbol.
Yeah.
It stood for national identity, beauty and resilience.
So Hokusai is riding this landscape wave, but he's bringing something new to it, too.
Absolutely. Now, Japan was pretty isolated then, but there was limited contact with, the Dutch, right? So a window to the west was open. And Hokusai was apparently fascinated by European art, even studied their engraving and perspective techniques.
Almost like the Great Wave itself shows that mix of tradition and new influence, huh?
I see what you mean. You've got the classic Japanese subject, Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
But the style, yeah, it hints at something else.
Totally. And you look at that print and you feel the energy, that drama, that massive wave, almost scary, ready to just gulp down those tiny boats.
Powerful, right? And yet Mount Fuji, in the distance, standing strong.
That contrast is amazing. On one hand, you've got the wave, the symbol of wild nature, fleeting, it's about to crash, vanish. And on the other hand, Mount Fuji, enduring, strong.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Hokusai playing with the idea of ukiyo, that floating world. Everything changes, yet something remains constant.
It's interesting, too, how small Mount Fuji looks, almost like the wave is the main attraction.
That's Hokusai's skill with perspective. Making Mount Fuji smaller, it pulls you into the wave's power. A visual trick, but it adds meaning too.
And those fishermen and those tiny boats, man, it makes you anxious just looking at it. Like that wave is about to crush them.
Vulnerable for sure, but there's also resilience there. Look at them. No panic, just focused determination. Like they're facing this massive challenge head on, the spirit of perseverance.
They're all grouped together too, almost like they're helping each other out.
Like a message about facing challenges together, even when things feel overwhelming.
We've unpacked so much just from the composition alone.
Right. And we haven't even gotten to the colors and the way Hokusai brought the Great Wave to life. We'll dive into that more after this.
So we've talked about the history, the symbolism, but I'm really curious about Hokusai's technique, the actual creation of the print. What makes it so visually striking?
Well, that blue. That incredible blue. It's Prussian blue. Hokusai was one of the first Japanese artists to use it.
Ah, so that's what gives it that vibrancy.
Exactly. It was the new pigment imported from Europe, way more vivid and stable than traditional Japanese blues. It gives the Great Wave that iconic look. Almost electric, right?
It's like he saw this new color and was like, perfect. That's my wave right there.
Right. Embracing new tech to get his vision across. But it wasn't just the color itself. It's how he used it. The depth, the movement, those swirling lines of blue and white, that's where his mastery comes in.
But how do you get that sense of depth and movement in a woodblock print? It's not like you're blending colors on the paper.
Right, right. Think about it. It's a process. Each color, a separate woodblock. Each one carefully carved to get those shapes and lines.
The precision on that, though. Imagine carving those tiny foam lines, the gradations in the sky, those little figures in the boats.
Incredible, isn't it? And it wasn't a solo act, ukiyo-e. It was collaborative. You had the artist, the carver, the printer, all working together.
Like a team effort.
Totally.
Yeah.
The carver had to understand Hokusai's design, translate that onto the wood, and the printer had to make sure everything lined up perfectly. The ink, the pressure, all had to be just right.
It's like a dance, this whole symphony of skill coming together to create this one image.
Absolutely. And the materials mattered too. Cherry wood for the blocks, strong, durable. And the paper, that was washi, traditional Japanese paper, strong and textured.
So that's why they look so different from, like, European prints.
It all adds up, yeah. Those materials, the inks, they gave the prints that special quality, a warmth and vibrancy that's unique.
Each one a little bit different then.
Absolutely. So this brings us to the impact. The Great Wave, it wasn't just big in Japan. It influenced Western art hugely.
Japonism, right. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so picture Europe, mid-1800s. Japan, after centuries of being closed off, opens up to the West. And all this Japanese art and culture floods in.
And it blows their minds.
Totally. They were fascinated. Bold colors, those unique compositions, it was like nothing they'd seen before.
And the Great Wave was leading the charge.
Definitely one of the most recognizable, influential images. Think of Monet, Van Gogh. Huge names. Impressionism, post-impressionism, they were inspired by Japanese art. And you see echoes of the Great Wave in their work.
No way. Monet and Van Gogh taking cues from a Japanese woodblock print?
Oh, yeah. Look at Monet's water lilies. That same fascination with light, movement, capturing nature's beauty. And Van Gogh, in his letters, he talks about how much he admired Hokusai, the way he created emotion, movement, just through lines.
So from Japan to Europe, the Great Wave, it really made a splash.
And it doesn't stop there. The image went global, an icon, instantly recognizable everywhere.
It really is everywhere. Museums, T-shirts, even emojis.
Right. It represents Japanese art, tsunamis, even surfing. But why? Why does it still resonate with us after all this time?
That's a good question. I feel like everyone sees something different in it. But there's that raw power, that beauty, that message of resilience.
For me, it's how Hokusai captured something universal about being human. We've all faced those waves, those challenges, setbacks, and like those fishermen, we got to navigate through.
I like that. It's more than just a pretty picture. It reflects our own struggles, our triumphs. Even when things feel huge, we can endure. It really is amazing, huh? To think how far this image has come. From a woodblock print in Japan to this global icon still speaking to us, all these years later.
The power of art, right? Transcending time, culture, it becomes something everyone can connect with.
And it all started with Hokusai and his vision, his skill, and how he wasn't afraid to, try new things.
Oh, for sure. And Hokusai did so much more than just the Great Wave. He created thousands of prints, all sorts of subjects. If you want to explore more of his work, I'd say check out his other series, like 36 Views of Mount Fuji or 100 Views of Mount Fuji.
There's so much to see.
Tons. There are books, online collections, even museums dedicated to his art. It's out there.
So for our listener who requested this deep dive, where would you say is a good starting point to really explore the Great Wave and Hokusai's work?
Well, if you ever get the chance, see an original print in person. There's something about seeing it up close. The texture, the little variations in the ink, the craftsmanship, you don't get that from a reproduction.
I bet. To see those colors in person, the details, it's got to be pretty breathtaking.
It is. And a lot of major museums all over the world, they have ukiyo-e prints. You might be surprised what you can find, even locally.
That's true. And what about for someone who wants to get a little more hands-on?
Ooh, try woodblock printing yourself. There are studios, workshops that offer classes. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've done it before.
No, that would be cool. To really understand the process,
It gives you a whole new appreciation for what Hokusai did.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to create your own Great Wave, whatever that looks like for you.
I love that. So as we wrap up here, I think it's safe to say that the Great Wave off Kanagawa is, well, it's more than just a beautiful picture.
Yep.
It's like a peek into a specific time, a place. It reflects Japanese culture, art, and it makes you think about nature, those powerful forces, and about the human spirit, too.
It keeps captivating us, inspiring us, makes you curious, makes you look closer. Think about where you fit in the world.
And maybe that's what makes a masterpiece, that ability to, reach beyond its time, its place, and speak to something universal in all of us.
Exactly. So next time you see the Great Wave, on a museum wall or even a coffee mug, really look at it. Think about the journey it's taken. What stories does it tell? What does it make you feel?
Because in the end, art means something different to everyone. It's up to you to find your own meaning in it.